How do you mount solar panels on a roof? Today we're mounting solar panels on this wooden shingle roof, and I've got Fannis and James with me, and together they've got more than a decade in the field as solar technicians. We're going to be showing you the best practices. We're going to be showing you what hardware and supplies and materials you need and how to mount these solar panels on the roof. You're watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad. Let's get started. So which side of your roof should you mount your panels on? We've got four sides, right? We've got a smaller side, which is our southern side. We've got our eastern side. We've got our western side, and then we have our northern side of the roof. Fannis, in your experience, which would you choose to mount those 10 panels on?
Usually in our hemisphere here in United States, we got three locations, which is the south is the number one, and the east, and then the west.
Okay, so three different sides you'd choose from. You'd choose from the southern, the eastern, and the western.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we got 10 panels. Which you think is going to be best?
But in this case, you got limited. The south side is limited here, so you got 10 panel.
Yep.
So in this case, I would put them on the east side of your roof.
So aesthetically, it's going to look better to mount those panels all together on one side of the roof.
Yes.
Plus, we're not going to be able to utilize the southern side of the roof here because we don't have enough room for all those panels.
Definitely.
So keeping them all together is nice for installation purposes, and also because eastern facing roof, I'm going to get that morning sun plus a little bit of afternoon.
Yes, if you're in a location where there's the thunderstorm in the afternoon, the east side is the best for a solar panel installation.
Very good. Yes, sir. So James, tell me, how are we going to lay these panels out? Are we going to lay them out portrait this way or landscape this way?
We're gonna lay those panel portrait, so we know the panel are 44 inches wide, and 68 inches long. So we're gonna put them portrait. So we're gonna have 5 panel on top and then 5 panel in the bottom.
Awesome. So there'll be a panel here, portrait, and
then
another panel here.
Yeah,
and all the way down.
Exactly.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And you use your tape measure, and then you use the crown right here. Looks like some chalks.
Yeah, a crayon. So
excellent.
So we can mark the roof.
All right, let's go look at the solar panels, and I'll tell you where I got them and give you a discount. These are Sirius 415 watt bifacial solar panels. I got these at Signature Solar for about $187 a piece. The dimensions are 44 inches wide by 68 inches long, so about 4 foot by 5 foot. They're bifacial solar panels, and they get about 539 watts with bifacial gain. If you want a discount, check out Signature Solar and use discount code TADDY50 to get $50 off. I've got 10 of these 415 watt Sirius solar panels, and they're assembled in the USA, so they're assembled in Texas. If you want that discount, click the link right here or go down in the description and click that link to get $50 off your order. James and Fannis are running a chalk line from one mark on this side of the roof to the other mark on the other side of the roof. The reason they're running this chalk line is to keep the rail that they're going to mount the feet on, that they're going to mount the modules on, straight. That way, when you look up on the roof, everything looks perfectly straight and beautiful. So I love the fact that they're using a chalk line. If you're someone out there who doesn't know how to make it look straight, wants to make it look straight, use a chalk line. So after the chalk line is established and we know where our rails are going to go, which we're going to have 4 rails, 1, 2, 3, 4, then you figure out the spacing for your anchors. And you need to check with your local building code, your AHJ, your authority having jurisdiction, so you know what your wind load is in your area. And that will determine the spacing for your anchors. For our application, we're going to be using 4 foot. So the guys are coming in here and they're marking right the beginning of the rail, and then they're going over from this spot 4 foot over. And then, Fannis, can you tell me why these are staggered? Like, I know you came over 4 foot and you marked this, but when I look up, there's anchor points here, and this one's here, and then you go over 4 foot, you got another one, and then anchors here, and then 4 foot, and then anchors here. Tell me why it's staggered.
So I mean, the solar system has a lot of enemies.
Okay.
We got enemies. We got wind load is one of them.
Wind load's the enemy?
We got snow load is all of them.
Snow load, okay.
We got shade is one of them.
Shade, all right.
So now the anchor has to do with the wind load or snow load.
Okay.
So now even snow load would work here in that application. So what happened here, the wind load is always bigger at the beginning of we call it cantilever, at the beginning of the panel.
Okay.
So that's why we have that anchor, those two anchors so close.
Okay.
Here, and then we have, in the bottom, they're not so close, and then I have 4 feet. At the end, I have the bottom
Close.
close.
Okay, so at the edges, it's closer.
Yes.
Because the wind load affects the solar array system more at the edges.
Yes.
So, and then you stagger for strength.
Exactly. If the wind cannot take the panel, the solar module away from the edges, it cannot do it in the middle.
Got it. I have a new roof. If you have an older roof, older than 10 years old, you may need to replace your roof before you put your solar system on top of your roof, because it's going to be more expensive to replace that roofing material with the solar panel system on it. James, what's the next step?
The next step, we're gonna put the anchors.
All right, cool. And so it looks like we got flashing, lag bolt washers, and the feet?
Yes.
And what's the feet made out of? Aluminum?
The aluminum, yes.
Aluminum, awesome, man. So we're gonna take and we're gonna go ahead and screw these lag bolts in, and then this flashing and that feet is what we're gonna use to mount the rails on?
Exactly.
Awesome, man, let's get started. So how many of these do we need, Fanis?
I mean, it all depends. I mean, there's a lot of calculations.
So you can't calculate based off the amount of panels you have?
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. That's the easiest way.
Okay.
So rule of thumb is if you got 10, like you're in a situation, you got 10 panel.
Yeah.
It says how many anchor I need. So just multiply by that by 2.
Okay, multiply the amount of panels you have by 2.
I mean, it could be.
And then you may need more than that?
Just a fix. Usually is a few more or a few less, but it should not be 30. If you got 10 panel with 30 feet, no.
Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect, awesome, makes it simple.
Yeah.
So right now, the crew's got most of the flashing and the feet in place. They've only got 2 or 3 more left, and Fanis is gonna run us through how to seal the flashing and mount the feet and screw that lag bolt in. So show me from step 1 to getting it done.
Yeah, first of all,
how
I
we
mean,
do this.
first of all, the solar system is a beautiful thing. It did a lot of good.
Okay.
So, I mean, the installation process, there's a lot of little things you need to do.
Okay.
And this is putting that flashing and the sealant, the waterproofing, this is a critical point
Okay.
in the process of install of the solar system. So now the first thing you do, and as you see, the hole is already made, and the hole is made in there.
So you drilled a 1/4-inch
Yes,
hole
mhm.
with the drill.
Right.
Okay.
And then now you get your flashing and your feet, and then you got your goop. And then all you do a U and that flashing here. And reason we don't put a O, if the water never get in there, it doesn't flash down in here. And then on that lag board just going to penetrate the roof, you want to put that sealant on top of that. What that means, as the screw going down, it seal that hole.
Okay.
Okay. So what we
right.
do here, we hold that like this, and then we try to hold that so this slides down, and you put that, and then we find the hole, we stick that in the hole, and then you get your end pack, you drive that baby down.
And this is, the drill is 9/16?
Yes.
Got it, the socket.
Yes. It's down like this. You make sure that flashing sits straight, and then that sits straight. You can feel that it's biting that 2x4. You can see that, and then that's it.
So good. So we know that by this not being able to be moved after it's screwed in, that it's actually tight into the truss.
Yes.
Okay, so it's in that rafter. That's
yes.
good.
Yes.
All right. Do you think that the customers always have a leak-free seal when a solar installation crew is on top of their roof? Or do you think that sometimes, you know, the solar crews might not seal up like they need to?
So what happened? I mean, on installation, I mean, like we being trained how to do stuff. But what happened? You know, I mean, you cannot if you get 5 guys on the crew, you cannot hold hand of 5 of them.
Yeah.
Maybe one of them, for some reason, not doing follow that process 100%.
Yeah.
But as far as leak, as solar installation, if you're on the good guys, know how it's doing, a good company, you shouldn't have any problem with the leaky roof.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So now these rails will sit on these feet.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah. So after we're done with all this, we got to do something called waterproofing.
Okay.
Because putting those feet alone is not enough. Doing all those beautiful things is not enough to prevent water from intrusion. So what happened here? Look at this here.
All right.
So if we don't waterproof here, seal it to the back, to the roof.
Then water will get up underneath.
Water always gonna find a way. When the water come in here, some going to, depend on how much, some going to get in there. When they do, they get behind this, they find that penetration, and over time you might have a leak.
Got it.
So now the is to prevent water from getting access to that penetration.
Got it.
So for this, we're going to do this. We get the goop, we goop that pretty good this way here to make sure we keep that down, and we goop that, make sure any water,
Oh, you gooped the seam.
the seam, any water come here goes away.
So this keeps the shingle pressed down and
Yes.
sealed to the flashing.
Yes, so that's
So not only is the flashing sealed to the shingles, but the shingles above the flashing are sealed to the top of
Yes.
the flashing.
yes.
And then as he presses it down, you can see that goop there, and that seals from the water actually going in from the side. So this is what you do to all of the flashing?
Some of them having that gap, but some of them
okay.
don't.
So the ones that have the gap,
You
you've
got
got
to
to
fix
seal
them.
them.
So if you look at this here,
Okay.
it doesn't have that. It doesn't need to be fixed.
So you can't lift that.
No, you
because
can't
there's
leave that. There's no
Got
way.
it. Okay.
And then if we're gonna keep doing, come here. So if you say this, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
So
see.
water gonna get in that gap and find access here, and then here, and then you get all kind of headache.
Got it.
So we got to make sure we fix that.
So how do you seal this?
How you seal it? You lift that up and you put the group in here. You put it on top of this thing here, and you lift both of them. So as you press it down, and then that shingle, that sealant is going to pop out, and then palm. You see?
Oh, okay.
Here we go. And then water can never get his way here.
Got it.
That's the right way.
That's awesome. I love the right way.
Yes.
So we're not just taking and putting this flashing and feet down. We're going back. We're waterproofing.
Yes.
James, we got all the flashing and the feet set in place. Now we're using a railing system. What's the manufacturer of that railing system?
Those are made by Iron Ridge.
Iron Ridge. all
Yes,
right.
sir.
And it looks like they're made out of, is it aluminum?
Yeah, yes, they are.
Okay, it's aluminum. And how are we going to attach these rails to the feet?
So we use that rail bolt.
Using a rail bolt?
Yeah, that we put in,
All right, it
So-
slides in.
and then
And then there's a nut that's attached to
Yeah.
the aluminum feet.
exactly. So we're gonna tie that, and then tie that to the rails, so make them level,
Excellent.
and then so we can put everything together.
Looks good so far, man. What do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna be wonderful. So I mean, good system. Everything is so far. It's come out the way we want it to be.
Awesome. If you notice on each rail, we've got a bolt with a lug right here, and this is for grounding. You'll need to ground each one of these rails, and we're using a copper bare number 8 wire, and this is basically going to run from this lug to each rail, and that's going to ground those rails. This is my EG4 12K hybrid inverter, and the solar panels are going to run straight into this inverter. Inside, you can see we've got a terminal labeled PV input, and we've got +1, -1, +1, -1, so we can run several strings into this inverter. You may need an interconnection diagram. You'll need to check with your local electric company and see if there's net metering available. That's where you can actually sell back the power that you generate, as well as be able to generate your own power for your home. This is an interconnection diagram, and this is a diagram that I had to make, and I had to send this to my local electric company to make sure that my wiring was going to be code compliant. So I've got my PV power into my inverter, disconnect, generation meter, disconnect, and then to my load center. And you can see there's my grid tied meter. This right here is the quick start guide for that hybrid inverter. So you need to make sure that if you get the EG4 inverter that you read the manual and you understand more about this inverter. One thing you're definitely going to need is you're going to need labels. You've got to be able to label the PV system. That way when you get an electrical inspection that you pass the inspection. So I've got labels and I'm going to be installing those labels. On this hybrid inverter, I'm going to make sure that I read the data plate. If you have an inverter, make sure you know all the data, like max DC voltage, says 600 volts. MPPT voltage range, 120 to 500 volts. Max DC current, 25 amps. Max DC power, 12,000 watts. You got to know this information because you might not have the right PV array to be able to actually operate your inverter. One thing I love about this hybrid inverter is the disconnect right here on the side, where you can disconnect the PV array from that inverter just by flipping this switch right here. You've also got a rapid shutdown button. So rapid shutdown allows you to be able to shut down the system entirely in case there is an emergency. So Fanis is going to show us how to crimp an MC4 connector onto the PV wire. Show us the way, brother.
Yeah, so this is very important. This is very small.
Okay.
But if this is being done from the outside, we call this one the male.
Okay.
Let me see this. What's the other one? So we call this one the male.
That's the male
this
connector.
Is the female.
That's the female.
Because from the outside, this goes inside.
Yeah,
right?
got it.
But in reality, this one is the female. This one is the male. Because this is the pin that's go inside of this.
Got it.
This is the pin that's go inside.
So that really
this.
goes into that.
And
the metal goes
inside the metal going inside.
So the
this.
plastic male goes into the female plastic, but the female metal goes into the plastic male. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
I bet they were kind of confused when they made this on what to call it.
Yeah. So we cut
So
here.
we're taking the strippers. We're stripping off the edge of the wire coating.
Yeah. We got to make sure we don't really bleed that wire.
Yeah, you don't want to cut the strands off.
Yeah, to make too much. And sometimes you can have a little dent, but not like you're taking those out.
Yeah,
right?
Otherwise you lose efficiency.
Definitely. See, I mean, the electricity flows not inside the wire, but on the outside of it.
That's right.
So on this one here, we're going to make the bigger one with this. Okay. And we kind of put this one inside here. Sometimes
so this is the crimping tool. And you put it at the very back, it looks like. Okay, so you kind of close that.
Kind of close has to hold it in place.
Okay.
And I'm not in place here, and you can see that.
So it's inside.
And
then you just put the wire in there.
Inside. Maybe I have, it's good. Then you keep that like that, and then you put down and you climb. You have to make sure this is done.
That is beautiful.
And then now you test,
pull on it to make sure it's tight.
Perfect.
Okay. Good. So then you just slip the male plastic connector over it.
If I add that something that's very important.
Thank you, sir.
So before we even put that in, so this is the right amount. You have to strip it. So
it can't go up inside the tube.
No, you don't want that.
Okay.
So
it just needs to be on the crimp part.
Yes.
Maybe just a little past the crimp part, but not up inside.
Yes, you don't want that because as we know how electricity, flowing.
Yeah.
So you end up having issue with it.
Yeah.
So have fault and everything.
Because it doesn't push all the way in because the wire's keeping it and then it has a loose connection.
Yes.
And you're saying then heat will build up and it could end up burning the plastic connector to pieces, basically.
Yeah. So he did the pull test.
Did he do a good job?
Yes, he did the pull test. That's one thing.
You can tell me the truth, James. You can tell me the truth.
And then sometimes you open this a little bit.
Who does a better job, you or Dennis?
He is the boss.
He's the boss? Okay, all right. Well, he says you're the project manager. Aren't you the boss on this job?
So you push it, you will hear the click. So how, the pen is click inside.
Okay, so there's a click.
Yes.
Got it. I love it, man. I love it.
And
that's how you crimp an MC4 connector.
Yes. And then you tied it. Sometimes, they have tools that you can tie it, but you can tie it by your hand, and then so it should not be able to come out. Make sure when you're tightening this too, so you don't go sideways, because so
You don't
make
want to
sure.
cross thread
Yeah, exactly.
the
That's the right word.
connector, because if you
Exactly.
cross thread, then it's not going to be able to tighten up.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's right.
Okay.
That's it.
That
All
makes
right.
sense. All right. To be code compliant, you need to make sure that your PV wire is not touching the roof. And that's the reason that they have clamped or zip tied the PV wire to the rails. One thing I want to point out is they're not touching the roof, and that's a no-no for codes. This junction box has flashing on it. See how it goes up underneath the shingles? Then there's a hole that's drilled inside the box and right into the roof. And you can see this is the hole saw that was used. This is a really awesome way for you to be able to enter the attic space, get to your inverter, your disconnect, or your box. And this is called a solar deck or a solar junction box. Really like this. This is pretty cool product. And if you're installing a solar system, you should definitely get one of these. Link in the description for this. If you're going to be on a roof, you need to make sure that you have the right protective gear. You may need a harness, you may need to tie off, you may need the PPE in place so that you're safe, because safety should come first when you're doing an install like this. So I wanted to take a moment in this video just to remind you to be safe out there and have the proper gear while you're on a roof, especially when you're a certain height up off the ground. So right now we got the last panel in place. Before we set this panel down, we would take and we would run some conduit in the attic, which would have to be metal, because you can't run PV wire in plastic conduit. It will melt. There could be some safety issues there, so it's got to be metal. But it looks like we've got 2 strings here,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So we ran 2 strings and we didn't run 1 string. So what does that mean? 1 string means we have all 10 panels in series, right? But we don't have all 10 panels in series. We did 2 strings. That means we have 5 panels in series and 5 panels in series. The reason that we did that is because there's more flexibility with adding more panels later on. We can come back up here and I can add 5 more panels onto each string, and that will give me more of an option to have a bigger array. So inside the box, you can see there's 2 reds right here and there's 2 blacks. There's 1 red and 1 black for each string, 1 negative and 1 positive. Right now, we're gonna go ahead and set this panel down, get it in place. But then when we get conduit and PV wire, then we're gonna go in the attic and we're gonna run that wire from this box all the way to our inverter.
Yes.
And then you've also got, it looks like a ground strip in here.
Yes.
So the ground wire from the rails is going into this box, and then we're going to continue that ground wire onto the inverter.
That ground wire, we're going to change that ground to a number 8 green wire.
Got it.
So you cannot run this one inside the conduit.
Got
So
it.
we come up with a green wire with the PV wire going down to the inverter.
Excellent.
Because the inverter would be more happy with the green wire, stranded wire, than
Got it. Okay.
copper.
That's great. Thank you to my brother James. Thank you to my brother Fanis. This is how you mount solar panels on a roof. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you learned something. If you did, put what you learned down in the comments. If you got a question, remember, questions can lead to content. So don't be afraid to ask your question. But if you don't have a question, that's okay. Let me know who you are and let me know where you're from. Really appreciate you guys. You did a great job. Job well done.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. You've been watching Taddy Digest. I'm Tad, and I'll keep you cool if you let me.